early early afternoon. My name is Corbin Granger. I'm the Senior Vice President of Compliance here at Town Benefits, and we're going to spend a few minutes just talking about the 1094 and 1095B reporting requirements for 2025. This requirement only applies to employers who were level funded or balance funded or self-funded during the 2025 calendar year. And the reason for that is because under the rules of the IRS, the employer is considered the coverage provider, whereas it's normally the insurance carrier. So I always send out a copy of the presentation, and we will also have the presentation posted on our website. So let's get going. So this is a disclaimer. You know, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, so we base this on the current IRS, HHS, and DOL guidance that we have. This webinar does not cover additional ACA state reporting requirements, as there are some states that have an individual mandate penalty, like California, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Washington, D.C. So there may be additional reporting for employees in those states. Whoops, went the wrong way. So what is the 1094, 1095B? This form was created exclusively for the purpose of people having coverage and being able to confirm that coverage without getting the individual mandate penalty. Now, when the individual mandate penalty was reduced to 0, starting around 2029, it is confusing to me and probably to you why we need to keep filing the federal 1094, 1095B. But the IRS says that we have to do it, so that is what we do. And it's reporting what we call minimum essential coverage or minimum value coverage to show that who the individuals were that were covered under your plan. So I did go over that. The state required filing for the individual mandate, and the 2025 forms and instructions. All right, the 1095B must be distributed to the responsible individual. That's your employee or someone on COBRA or state continuation by March 2nd, 2026. You see the asterisk there? There's an alternate method of furnishing the 1095B on the next slide. Either way, you still have to file electronically the 1094, 1095B form with the IRS by March 31st, 2026. They no longer take paper copies, so they encourage everyone, actually everyone is forced to file electronically. You could ask your payroll provider if they could do this for you. And it's also very, very simple to use one of the online tools. I'm familiar with eFile4Biz, Yearly, etc. And what they do is you pay the fee and you get the Excel spreadsheet, and everything in the Excel spreadsheet corresponds to one of the lines on the 1094 or 1095B. And I have an example I will show you at the end. So what does the alternative furnishing of the 1095 actually mean? What it means is the IRS has rescinded the rule that you have to provide the 1095B to an employee automatically. So in past years, you've had to mail them out or give them out in person, and you no longer have to do that as long as the employer provides a clear, conspicuous notice that is reasonably accessible to all covered individuals on their website by March 2nd, 2026. Now, it doesn't say this in the rules, but I imagine if you don't have a website and you can prove that you've given everyone the notice that they're only going to get it if they ask, I imagine that would also suffice. But if you're using a website, the notice must stay until October 15th, 2026. The IRS can never make anything simple, right? And if a person requests it, you give it to them by the later of January 31, 2026, or 30 days after they make a request. As I've repeated a couple of times, it still means that the 1094 and 1095B must still be electronically filed with the IRS by March 31st, 2026. So all this to say that you do not have to automatically mail them out or give them out unless the employee asks for it. And that is an option, and as long as you provide the notice that they get it if they ask for it. All right, so here is the 1094B. And again, when I show you the spreadsheet, you'll see that it's something, the numbers on here, you see filer's name, employer identification number, name of person to contact. Those fields are already embedded in the electronic Excel form. So for the 1095B, for the health coverage, it's in 3 parts. Part 1 refers to the responsible individual. That's going to be your employee, whoever is holding the policy. It's very similar to a W-2, except on line 8, where it says enter letter identifying origin of the health coverage. If you have an employer-sponsored plan, B, capital B is line 8. And if you happen to have an ICRA, G is the code for an ICRA. Part 2 is not to be completed, so there won't be any questions about that on an Excel template or from your payroll company. But part 3, that's where you list yourself as the issuer or other coverage provider. So again, part 3, the employer is the coverage provider. And then last, you take the information and you put who was covered. So you're really only looking at people who were covered under your plan. Now, it may have been part of the year, it may have been the entire year. And you take the responsible individual first and you list them under covered. And then if they happen to have any dependents, you list them as well. If they were covered for all 12 months, you'll note that, or you can choose the months that they were covered. What happens normally is the providers of these self-funded plans will give you the information to punch into the form or the spreadsheet so that you can file them. You do not complete the date of birth unless this person has no Social Security or taxpayer ID number. So for example, here I have someone named Margaret Smith. You can see her social, it's blank. She was covered all 12 months. Her husband, John, the date of birth again is left blank. He's covered all 12 months, but then they had a baby, Aiden, and he was born in September. So he is listed for September, October, November, and December. As I've mentioned a number of times, since you have to file them electronically, unless you have what's called the AIR system, which coordinates you with the IRS. It's a completely new system that was just built for the Affordable Care Act. It's really designed for software developers, so it's probably easiest if you use one of these spreadsheets. This one happens to be from a company called eFile4Biz, and you can see number 17, issuer's employee identification number. Line 2, responsible individual Social Security number. So all of those fields correspond to something that is printed on the 1094 or 1095B. And again, you're not required to automatically give them out, but when you e-file, you want to keep copies of all the 1095Bs if you're not sending them out. So if someone requests one, they can receive it. Sometimes, even though people don't need them for their taxes, the tax person has told them that they need it, or they think they need it. So I imagine in most cases, at least one person is probably going to ask for this form. So I told you this is a pretty short webinar. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions people have. And again, I will send you a copy of this presentation, and we're going to have it posted on our website. Let's see. Questions. All right, well, I don't see any questions, so thank you so much for joining us. It's a privilege to work with you, and have a great day.